As a parenting coach, I've dedicated almost 10 years of my life to helping parents understand and improve their relationships with their children. And yet, as I stand in front of you all today, I feel deep shame about how I started out as a parent. I can clearly see myself bearing down over my eldest daughter with my finger in her face. I was screaming at her, shouting and raging. I was teaching her a lesson. How was she meant to respect me if she didn't fear me just a little bit, right? Well, this was everything I was telling myself until she looked up at me and pleaded, "Mummy, please stop. You're hurting my heart." In that moment, both of our hearts broke. I was coming from a good place. I would do anything to protect my little girl. And yet what I didn't see in that moment was that I was the one hurting her. In fact, I was bullying her. Why am I telling you this? Because I know I am not alone. I have worked with hundreds of parents just like me. We are all doing the best that we can, but it seems that culture, our society, our own past experiences, even the experiences of our parents, have somehow conditioned us to believe that this kind of interaction I had on that day with my daughter is what is best for our kids. It's discipline. It's good parenting. We are simply helping to raise our children into fine young adults, correct? Sadly not. Scientific study is proving that my behavior does not help my child to grow and evolve or be focused and driven or confident and resilient as I had been led to believe. In fact, I was not only hurting my child emotionally, but it turns out I was also damaging her memory, her brain development, and her ability to focus. All we ever seem to hear about in the media today is increased anxiety in children, higher suicide rates on record, young adults crumbling under this highly stressful culture that we're living in. How shocking to learn that our parenting could be a huge part of this pandemic. Research reflects that shouting, dominating, and punishing can have a devastating impact on our children, leading to low self-esteem, increased anxiety, depression, and even aggression. The University of California did a study and they found that those children who were subjected to more yelling scored significantly lower on cognitive function tests than those children who were separated into a non-yelling group. Why? Because yelling and shouting activates the fight or flight receptors in the brain, which over time leads to increased stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety directly interferes with our ability to remember information, to focus, and to concentrate. But there is another way, a healthier way. The University of Minnesota assessed that those children who had more connected, supportive, and empathic relationships with their parents not only performed better in school and were more confident and resilient, but they were also able to develop much stronger relationships with their teachers and their peers. Now, I believe that this is what we all want for our children. So how do we make this shift? Luckily, there are some practices that can actually help our children to be more emotionally healthy and intellectually astute. I want to share with you today some tips that have helped me and countless parents over the years. Tip number 1, be a role model. Our children are watching us. I think as parents, we are all pretty sure that most of the time they are not listening to us. But believe me when I say they are watching. So let's stop focusing on trying to get our children to show up a certain way and focus on showing up that way ourselves. Number 2, get clear on boundaries and use them. A rule is not a boundary, and a punishment is not actually a consequence. When we can implement healthy boundaries in our homes, we can expect better connection, increased trust, and a healthy independence from our children. Tip number 3, teach your children how to regulate their emotions. Help your kids to understand all of their feelings and find healthy ways to express themselves. Emotions are not something that we need to be afraid of. The best way to do this, get connected to yours. And finally, number 4, and I remind myself of this every single day, listen to understand. Understanding is not acceptance. We all thrive when we feel heard and understood, and this is no different for our children. These practices are proven to not only improve your relationship with your children, but also to support their developing brains. Parenting is not easy, but I do believe it is the most important job we will ever have. The next generation is in our hands. And so I quote from Philip Larkin, "They fuck you up, your mum and dad, but maybe with this science on our side, this time round we won't."